Welcome to the Builders of Authority podcast, a show committed to helping you build authority for your brand. In the realm of business and personal branding, authority stands as a cornerstone. Authority isn't built overnight, it's built over time. So join us as we build something remarkable together. And now, here's your host, Adam McChesney.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Builders of Authority podcast. Our title sponsor for the Builders of Authority podcast is Go High Level, also known as GHL. GHL is the first ever all-in-one platform that will give you the tools, support, and resources you need to succeed and crush your marketing goals. Personally, I've used this software since 2020, and it's been a game changer for my business and our clients. If you are looking to level up your CRM and marketing game, then this is the platform to use. You can find a link for a free 30-day trial with tons of Builders of Authority bonuses in the show notes, so take advantage of the opportunity to adopt this amazing software and grow your business. Quick reminder before we hop into today's episode that we are continuing to grow our Builders of Authority community online. Builders of Authority is committed to helping you become the authority in your industry with personal branding. We have our free Facebook group that you can join by typing in Builders of Authority into the search bar or clicking the link in the show notes. In that group, there's daily content, weekly live trainings, and much more. We have our Builders of Authority Mastermind, which includes a private Facebook group, live weekly trainings and sessions, and access to our personal branding course. Reach out to me on social media or send us a message at buildauthority.co for more information. Today, we are joined by someone who is a fractional CMO, speaker, and lead generation / launch specialist and summit producer. I first met her through a mutual connection a few months ago. We hopped on a Zoom call and learned more about what we do, and then I was recently a guest on her podcast. I'm excited to have Jennie Wright join the podcast today. Jennie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Adam. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I know we were just talking about some exciting stuff that you have going on and excited to dive into all that you do. But if you can open up the episode here real quick, just letting people know who Jennie Wright is.
Yeah, sure. That always feels really uncomfortable. But I'm a list building lead generation specialist to the heart. I'm a marketing person at the core. And one of the things I'm just really known for, or really good at, is lead generation and list building with things like online summits, in-person events, things like that. And more recently, I've been using these skills for good as a fractional CMO and getting into the nitty-gritty of people's businesses and finding all those really juicy opportunities.
Love it. So what were you doing that kind of led up to the avenue in the business that you've gone through right now?
I think it's an evolution like everybody goes through at some point in their career. I've been doing this for 12 years as an entrepreneur,
Mm,
and I started as a virtual assistant, and then I was an OBM, and then I was a coach. None of those things felt really cozy to me. I'm too much in the weeds. Sometimes I really like getting into what people are doing. And so online events and in-person events and list building just felt really where I wanted to be. It used all the different parts of my brain that are constantly in play. And then fractional CMO work is like that on all the different steroids because it just takes it to a different level. And the energy that you have to be a fractional CMO is off the charts.
mm,
And I love that.
mm. That's awesome. I think a lot of people struggle with a lot of the details or the organization and the process and system stuff, which you're really good at, and kind of talked about. Not only have you done it for your businesses and for your clients, but now you're doing it in a fractional role. And I think
Yeah.
really over the last couple of years, you're starting to see the word fractional C-suite level type stuff really not just become more of a general topic of conversation, but you're seeing more people asking for it and more people offering it. So first off, what have you seen that has gone really, really well in the fractional CMO space? And then secondarily to that, what are some of the things that you do inside of businesses specifically as a fractional CMO?
I think fractional CMO ends up being a bit of a catch-all. And it sometimes people think it has to be like you are great at everything within the marketing realm or the marketing sphere. And I think we have to look at it more in a niche way. So the
Mm,
thing I think people are doing incorrectly is assuming that their fractional CMO is going to come in and fix everything overnight. Fixing problems or looking for solutions to things like your leads are leaking out of your HubSpot CRM, or your email sequences aren't right, or you haven't been lead genning the right way. These things take a little bit of time to redirect.
mm,
And So it's really funny. There's like a lack of patience for marketing. People think it's a really quick fix.
Yeah.
And although I can achieve really amazing results in as like, 60, 90 days, it does take some time to audit a business and find out what's going wrong and then and then come up with the plan and institute a plan for the solution.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, running an agency for 6+ years, I've seen so many different aspects where people have unrealistic expectations for many different reasons. But when done
Yeah.
correctly, from the get go, really, really good marketing happens when you take the time to audit, right? And I think that's
Mhm.
where most people go wrong is they want to, whether it's the marketing person or the agency or the fractional CMO, they want to go full steam ahead because they want to start having the client think that there's like tangible results and like things that are actually moving the needle forward when that's important. But if you don't fix the foundation on a lot of this stuff and start connecting the dots, then it doesn't matter what you build on top of it. There's always going to be that faulty foundation.
That's perfect. I love that. Adam, that's perfect. That's exactly what I would say. And I think we need to have that realistic approach that, sure, I can make amazing things happen. Any fractional CMO worth their metal can. But you have to, that foundation is so important. If that foundation's got some issues, you got to attend those first. Nothing is going to succeed. I actually had this happen with a client of mine last year. Their sales team couldn't close the sale,
Mm.
and they wanted me to produce a ton of leads, which I can, and I did, but the sales team couldn't close the leads. So I was bringing in 300, 400 high quality leads a month, if not more, but the sales team couldn't close them.
Mm.
So the results weren't there. So, you get into a meeting with the CEO and they're like, well, what you're doing isn't working. I'm like, actually, yeah, it is.
Mm.
This is the problem.
Mhm.
It's this area right here. So we need to fix all of these different things, and it has to be done in a holistic way so that everything's working together, pointing the same way, so that you get those results.
Well, that's an interesting example because it's something that I've seen consistently over the years as well. Is there's usually a disconnect a lot of times between marketing and sales in many
Yes.
companies. And when you're hiring a digital marketing or a marketing agency, and their sole focus is going to be on generating leads and some of those conversion metrics, but there's not the pass through or the correlation between marketing and sales, you're kind of just fighting that battle internally, which is why I think what you're doing, and specifically a fractional CMO, has so much power because you're taking a more holistic approach at where are the leaky buckets. Sometimes more leads aren't always the answer. Sometimes it's a better sales process and or more qualified leads. So what would you say as far as fractional CMO kind of going into these companies? When is usually the best time for companies to hire a fractional CMO?
That's a really good question. And I think I don't have the best answer for it, but what I'll say is I think people always wait too long,
Yes.
because whenever I come in, the problem is already compounded
Uh-huh.
and they've thrown a bunch of solutions and they're not working. And now it's like, I'm the last ditch resort. And and I'm okay coming in because I don't mind being superwoman. But I think the best time is when things are expanding. So either you're starting to feel a little bit of the tightness of how many leads are coming in, or you're feeling a little bit of tightness in the fact that you're not getting the results necessarily that you want, but you're not at desperation mode. And having somebody like me come in, or any fractional CMO or anything come in and kind of do an audit. I like 30 days. I need 30 days to get in and see all the different processes, talk to the right people, look at all the data, and have that person come in and then be able to create an effectual plan and execute that is the best thing. I could say also, in timing wise, in terms of like revenue, it's when you're about to, or you want to get to that next level. You've hit some sort of a plateau
Mm.
and now you're trying to achieve that next level. And maybe you've brushed up against it a couple times, maybe you've never succeeded in getting over that hurdle. That's a really good time as well, because that means that there are processes that are not working as effectually as they could. And that's where I want to find them.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I think what you just said there is like 30 days for an audit, right?
Mhm.
That is incredible. Like from the standpoint of what businesses actually need, but they want audits done for free a lot of times. They want audits done, in 5 to 7 days. that's not a sufficient amount of time. And when you, as the business, put skin in the game to say, hey, I'm going to pay for this audit, not only have I seen when that has happened, the audit is that much better because you go in more in depth, you're able to put more resources toward it and things like that. But sometimes maybe you actually don't need to make the hire, but you now have an action plan of what steps you need to take internally before bringing in a fractional CMO, if that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Absolutely. I don't mind doing and all my audits are paid audits. I don't mind doing a 30-day audit. And then if the client needs the time to kind of put certain things in place before I would come in, or even just take that plan and run with it and see if they can do it.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
That would be cool too. And if they want some extra consulting, I mean, sometimes you don't need to have a fractional CMO, if I'm quite honest. And this is not to like shoot myself in the back, but you don't need a fractional CMO.
Mhm.
There's a lot of effort and time and everything put into that kind of stuff. And sometimes you need somebody to come in, and it's a term that my partner and I've been using called elemental CMO. And what we mean by elemental is we're not coming in to fix everything. We're coming in to fix one thing at a time.
Mhm.
So it's your CRM is totally messed up. Let's fix that. Or you're not looking at your data and analytics in a really good way. Let's look at that. Let's fix that. Or, so on and so forth, right? So it's not expecting somebody to come in and fix everything. I think we have to look at the really niched in things that are going to create like the low hanging fruit, if you want to call it, or the lowest lift, and what's going to create the most amount of difference in a short amount of time. Then you can start looking at all the other things that need those tweaks that will create additional elevation. And eventually you hit a tipping point. And that tipping point can be the leads are really great, or the data starting to improve, or you're getting more people, going to the website. You fixed all your links off of what came off of SEMrush and you're starting to see some really great gains. All those little things add up. And then that sort of tipping point I mentioned, then you're like, holy crap, like, we went from 10 leads or 10 unqualified leads a day to like 35. Right. Or we went from making 6 or 7 consultation bookings a day. Now we're at 26. And that becomes the new number. How did that happen? All those little incremental things that we worked on.
Yeah. Well, and I'm really glad you mentioned, hey, we're going to focus on one thing at a time, because I think that is probably some type of, whatever you want to call it, definition that most people think of a marketing person, whether it's a CMO or an internal marketing manager. I've had a lot of clients hire directors of marketing, whatever they might be, and they get disappointed very quickly because they're like, oh my gosh, this person doesn't know. They're not masters of social media and SEO and paid marketing and traffic and analytics. They need some time to get acclimated into the system. And if the system is broken, right, they're only going to be as good as the tools and the information that they have. So who are some of like the ideal, like, is there an ideal client that you guys typically work with? What are some of the characteristics, any specific industries, anything like that?
Luckily, because I've been doing this for so long, I'm not as industry specific as maybe some people. I am quite broad, which is fun. But in terms of the right kind of clientele, I mean, with transparency, it's multi-6 or multi-7 figure, because that's who can afford to have somebody come in and take a look at this stuff and do a 30-day audit and then look for those things. And when you're at that level, these minute changes can make a massive difference in the long run. So that's probably ideal. I love, people who understand marketing and are open to marketing, but don't expect marketing to be like the golden ticket to fix everything.
Yeah.
Right. And also has the patience to understand that, what we do, it takes a bit of time, a bit of understanding, and it's a bit of an art. And data doesn't always inform every decision.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of people who are, really willing to be open to this kind of work, I think are really, really great people. And there's a lot of people out there like that. And they're so much fun to work with.
Yeah. No, I always love it when people know enough to be dangerous, understand the importance of what we're doing, but aren't going to micromanage and stand over you at every second and be like, why isn't this getting done? Why aren't there more leads? Why aren't there more whatever?
Exactly. Somebody who allows you to fit in and be in flow.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to transition a little bit. Obviously, you've been doing this for a while. You've built a brand for yourself and for your business, and you help companies with marketing, which then in turns build their brands. What has been an important like aspect, or what is your opinion on the importance of building, whether it's a personal brand, business brand, everything in between?
I don't think enough time and energy is spent to really facilitate not only creating the brand, but then expanding the brand in the eyes of your ideal persona.
Mm, hmm.
So I think we underestimate how important it is that all boats should be facing the same way in this respect. Social media, website, offers, lead gen, lead magnets, and the list goes on. Everything should be pointed in the right direction. And also, to go deeper, what is the underlying message that we're conveying with that brand?
Mm,
Right? Are we conveying that we're allies? Are we conveying that we're edgy and forward thinking? Are we, what are we conveying with that brand, and what is the message? And that clarity removes ambiguity. If you can remove ambiguity within your ideal persona or ideal client's mind, then they get really relaxed, and it's very easy for them to make a decision either to enjoy that brand, be part of that brand, be interested in that brand, or not in that brand. And creating that really comfortability and making sure that people completely understand there's no really there's no hard questions. And I think that's really important. And I think sometimes people overthink their brand.
mm,
And I don't know if you've run into this, where it's like you get into somebody, the conversation with somebody about their brand, and you're like, what were you thinking when you created that? What was the intent? How were you trying to convey what it is that you do or who you are as a, if it's a personal brand, or what the business is meant to be about? And then there's the people also, or the companies, and I've seen this personally, where they decide that it's time to pivot and completely change their brand because they want to follow some new, different trend.
hmm.
And I think that loses something. Sometimes you lose a little bit of what that original thing was. Not saying that it can't be better. I mean, I've rebranded 3 times. One time was for good, one time not so good. So, and I learned from it. This most recent rebrand, which was the beginning of or end of last year, I think is it feels like I've got the comfortability. But I think that was about finding the proper voice. So when it comes to these things, just kind of wrap up what you were asking. There's, I just think we need to go a little bit deeper sometimes and have a deeper conversation.
Yeah. Well, I think for people that are just getting started, whether it's their personal brand or their business brand, I always tell people take action versus don't take any action at all. But at some
Yeah.
point, what you get started with doesn't have to be for your forever thing. And so people
Oh,
sometimes
totally.
hold on to something that needs to be rebranded or remessaged or repurposed far too long because they get so busy with all of the other stuff. But if you don't pay attention to it and you don't take any action to take it to that next level as your business goes from 0 to 7 figures, if you will, you are going to struggle to be able to be the company that is a 7 figure company. On paper, right? You might have that, but you're likely probably undercharging for your services if you don't have an incredible brand. You're likely working really, really hard to be at where you're at, and you're not happy with what you've built. And the brand kind of ties everything in together, from the messaging to the actual tangible things people can see, touch, and hear, all the way through to what people think about the brand when you're not around, right? So I think all those things play a vast, like, different role in that, but to bring everything full circle, I think it kind of compiles all together. What are some strategies that you have used to build your brand to grow your business?
Borrowing other people's audiences, full
Love it.
stop.
Love it.
That's it. That's been the biggest driver. That's been the biggest thing. And I've tried everything. I've tried paid ads. I mean, I've tried everything.
Hmm.
But borrowing other people's audiences has been the biggest way that I've grown my business. And every time I do it, every time I invest time, effort, and money, or just time and effort into it, the payback, the dividends are huge compared to any other method that I've ever tried.
Mm. So people might be listening and might be like, what's borrowing other people's audience? So expand on that a little bit further.
Borrowing other people's audiences is Participating either in a summit, a bundle, being a guest on a podcast where somebody has an established audience doesn't mean it has to be big. It
Mm,
just means that your ideal client should be on that other person's list or within their following. And by appearing in front of them or offering value as an interview or a podcast interview or as a free gift on a summit or as a bundle gift or whatnot, you're giving people the opportunity to see who you are and what you do at very little, if completely no cost and no effort on your part, practically. And as a result, you grow your list by hundreds, sometimes even thousands of new potential leads, and they're warm, right? So you're not paying ads for them. You get a better ROI than paid ads, in my opinion. I've actually been able to prove that. I've done a whole data analysis on the paid ads versus organic with bundles and summits and podcasting and so on, and proven that we're getting on average, and this is funny, this has been the exact same amount for the past 12 years, but it's costing on average between $2 to $6 per lead to be on a summit or to be in part of a bundle or to show up on a podcast versus paid ads, which the price has been going up year over year, and which is now, at least in my industry, between $18 to $34 per lead. Sometimes you can get it a little bit lower. And I know people are like, I get mine for $2.61 a lead. Awesome. Good for you. But awesome. Uh, but the majority, the average isn't about that price. So yeah, it's being a guest speaker. Guest speaking is essential.
mhm.
It shows your authority. It shows you as an expert in your field. And again, it allows people to see what it is that you do, what you talk about, your position, your opinions, and it creates a ton of credibility in a very short period of time.
Mm. It's all the things that we preach and we tell people to do and inside of our Builders of Authority Mastermind and my one-to-one coaching clients is other people's audiences is one of the easiest ways, especially if that audience of that person, right? That other person is a current past client, a referral partner, someone that has more of your ideal clients, as you mentioned, in their audience. It's really a win-win, obviously for everybody, and it does help build your credibility and build your authority. I want to shift to focus here a little bit and talk about some of these online summits. So I've never done one myself. I've been a part of them, but talk to the audience a little bit about the importance of them and then some of the things that you do to help people obviously launch these summits.
They are important. And although I do, like I just told everybody and I like pontificated about being a speaker on them, hosting one also has its major advantages.
Hmm.
So if you're hosting a summit, I know you said you haven't done one before, you've been a guest, but hosting creates a really massive list injection, right? So you're going to put in some time and you're going to put in some effort, but you're going to receive the entire list, the entire email list out of it. Additionally, the clients that host summits that work with me, they get a lot out of that back end. So one of my clients, Katie Brinkley, hosted a summit last year called the Profit Lab. And leads aside, she made a really good decent amount on the VIP income because you can charge like a VIP price for an upgraded package in a summit. So she made good income off of that. She was able to book, I think, 3 paid speaking gigs from that summit. Like people actually reached out to her and said, I saw that you did. And so she got like paid speaking gigs and was like, flying to different places to be able to do that, which is really, really cool. She met a whole bunch of people because when you host a summit, you're meeting potentially speakers that you've never met before and also registrants. So she was networking with new people that were outside of her current realm of of people that she knew. So she was able to make some really good new contacts. She ended up doing collaborations with them, which is cool. And then she was able to close clients. So people, and I mean, it's a year and a half later that she hosted the summit, and she still has people saying, I saw you hosting the Social Profit Lab, and I think you're amazing. And I love for you to work in my business. Like continuously still happens.
Mm,
So massive amount of benefits. And then when I produce a summit, I produce a little bit differently than, well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd say it's a little bit differently. I've just done more. So I've
mm.
done about 400.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And when you produce a summit, the way I approach it is all roads lead to the end goal. And I always work from the end goal backwards. So whatever program, product, or service or offer that you have, the entire summit is built around it. And also, I insert a lot of different up leveling techniques, things like getting sponsors, right? So some of my clients will get 50, 60, $75,000 in sponsorships before we even get to the summit, which means my fees paid for, and they've got
Hmm.
a ton of money in in their pocket.
Yeah.
And we do all these different things to really create a lot of interactivity, to make it fun and exciting, so it's not boring. It's not all these interviews being just kind of like delivered to you. And I always make sure that my speaker is elevated in terms of their authority
Hmm.
within the event, so they get the opportunity to really be that keynote within their own event, and not sort of the background. And I think that makes a difference.
That's incredible. I mean, I've seen it from a guest standpoint and as well as a guest speaker standpoint. Obviously, I know probably don't know the half of what goes on behind the scenes and the preparation and all those things. That's where you come in, obviously. But I think a lot of people see, right. So I've never done a virtual summit, but this will be our third in person event, two in the last 3 months. And so a lot of people are like, oh, I want to now go throw an in person event.
Mhm.
My recommendation would actually be, if you're not fully ready for that task of doing it in person, start virtual with the help of someone like yourself and do it there, prove the concept,
Yes.
and then go in person. Because I mean, it's me and my executive assistant and the guy that I'm running the event with, essentially doing all of the logistics and things like that, because we don't have a massive budget, but we did do pretty decent with sales. We got 5 sponsors, 6 sponsors this time, and so we are starting to raise the level there. But if I
Yes.
would go back and do it, I'd probably would start with virtual summit first and then go into the in-person stuff.
I completely agree with you, and congratulations. It's amazing that you've already seen some elevation from your first to your third.
Hmm.
That's phenomenal. And you can only see it improve from there. You're going to start seeing incremental. So it's going to be like a 2x, and then it's going to be like a 6x, and then it's going to be like a 10x more.
Yep.
So those things happen naturally as you get better at it. What you could also do, because I can't help myself but think of the cool things you could do, is you could add in a virtual component to that live event you're actually doing,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Now, maybe
Hmm.
not this time, but the
Hmm.
next time, so you can incorporate a larger audience and you can actually increase that reach. So you could make it a hybrid. I've done hybrids with in person and online before, but your recommendation of running an online first, highly agree, because it helps build an audience
Hmm.
before you try and do it in person. And I mean, one of the worst feelings is feeling that you put all this time and effort and nobody showed up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's real. Luckily, I haven't had that happen, but you think about the worst possible outcomes potentially when you're putting in all this time, energy,
Keeps you up at
resources
night.
and money. Yeah, and money into it. So, what are some things that, if people are thinking about doing an online summit, what are some things that people can think about or start to get ready, and then reach out? Obviously, we'll share your contact information where people can get a hold of you here in a second. But what are some things that people need to think about before getting the process started?
Timing. Timing is a really good thing. So think about what it is that you are offering. A summit fits perfectly before a launch.
Mm,
So you want to grow and engage a list before you actually launch a product. And if you're trying to sell 400 seats into a course, do the math on what your list, like how big your list is currently, how engaged that list is, what your open rate and click through rate is, and then you can figure out what your potential sales would be. And if it's not going to hit the number you want, you need to create a list injection.
mm,
And a summit is one of the best ways to do it. So I would tell everybody that's thinking of doing something like selling a course or a program or a mastermind, that creating this list injection is essential, within about 6 weeks before that launch, because you're creating an engaged list. So, to answer your question, what is it that you're doing? What are you trying to achieve? A summit will most likely fit in. I will tell you, I've done summits in pretty much every niche you can think of, and they universally always add value.
mm. I mean, I can only imagine, after have done 400 of them, how much experience, insights, things like that. Of course, you can run these things on your own, but I would recommend reaching out to Jennie after this. And I know it's a topic of conversation that's happening more often because people have gone to in-person events or they've ran in-person events and they realize it's a lot harder to fill up those seats because there's been so many incredible virtual events and it's easier. You don't have to leave your house or your office or wherever. So I'm excited to hear the feedback from this particular episode. I know I gained a lot of value, and I'm going to be reaching out to you when we need to launch a virtual event. Got some ideas for the future. But Jennie, thank you so much for coming on today. Any last pieces of advice that maybe we didn't touch on that you would have for somebody that's looking to continue to build their brand and get that to the next level with more authority?
Absolutely. So, Adam, thank you so much for having me on. I'm a big fan, and I think Builders of Authority is an excellent program, and what you're doing is fabulous. It's right in alignment with what I think everybody needs to be doing. And sort of the last words I'd say are that when you're looking to build your authority or you're looking to grow your business, having multiple channels where you're creating multiple opportunities is essential, right? So podcast guesting or being on people's summits or hosting your own, so that you should have a multitude of different ways that you're doing it. If you're relying on one strategy, you're not going to get the same effect as if you were to have multiple strategies. So start with one, add another, and continuously sort of, cultivate these so that you have multiple streams of being able to get your brand in front of as many people or as many qualified people as possible.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that. And thanks again for coming on today's episode. Where can people stay connected with you? We'll make sure to put all that stuff in the show notes.
Absolutely. If you Google Jennie Wright, there's only me and some actress, but I don't look like her, and they're older than me. So it's just basically me. And you can go to jennywright.com. That's Jennie with an IE, not a Y. And I'm all over social media, all the different socials. Just feel free to connect with me, DM me, and happy to have a conversation.
Awesome. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes. And if you're listening to this episode and you're like, virtual events, it's either been on my mind or I'm intrigued by this, Jennie is the person to reach out to. So make sure you reach out to Jennie and she'll get you all the details on what you need to do. Thanks so much again, Jennie. This is awesome.
Thank you, Adam.
And thanks again to our amazing title sponsor, Go High Level. Without them, we aren't able to produce the quality of content or have amazing guests on like we did today with Jennie. Check out a free and extended 30-day free trial with personal branding bonuses, a ton of stuff from Builders of Authority that's in the show notes. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review as well. We are making a big push for reviews this year, and it moves the needle. And remember, authority isn't built overnight, it's built over time.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get notifications as new episodes become available. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. We sure do appreciate it. Until next time, friends.